Emmy was a young woman full of dreams and ambition. She had always believed in kindness, empathy, and the power of love. Raised in a small but loving family, she had always been taught to be selfless and to treat others with respect. Emmy had grown up with her childhood friend, Tulu. Tulu had always been by her side, through thick and thin. They shared their hopes and fears, and they believed they would always be there for each other. But that all changed one fateful night. Emmy had been in love with Tulu for as long as she could remember. She knew he cared for her, but she also knew he wasn't ready for something serious. Despite that, she never gave up hope. She waited for him to realize that they were meant to be together. That one day, he would turn around and say the words she had always wanted to hear. But instead, Tulu did something that shattered her heart. It was a warm Saturday evening, and Emmy was waiting at their favorite spot in the park, just like they used to when they were younger. She smiled to herself, thinking that maybe tonight would be the night. She had gotten dressed in her favorite red dress, hoping that Tulu would notice her in a different way. As she waited, she saw him walking toward her from a distance. He looked as handsome as ever, but there was something different about him that evening. His face looked distant, like he had something important on his mind. Emmy felt a twinge of worry, but she pushed it aside. "Hey, Tolu!" She greeted him with a smile, trying to hide the nervousness in her voice. "Hey," he replied, his voice sounding colder than usual. They sat down together on the bench, and for a moment, there was a silence between them. Emmy was about to speak when Tulu broke the quietness. "Emmy, I think we need to stop seeing each other." Her heart stopped. She stared at him in shock, unable to believe what she had just heard. "Tulu, what do you mean? We've been through so much together. We've always had each other's backs," she said, trying to hold back the tears. He looked at her with a cold expression. "I've met someone else. I'm sorry, but I think it's time we went our separate ways." The words hit her like a slap to the face. She couldn't understand what was happening. She had always believed that their bond was special, that their friendship would one day blossom into something more. But here he was, telling her that it was over just like that. Tulu stood up, his eyes avoiding hers. "I think it's best if we don't keep in touch anymore. Goodbye, Emmy." And with that, he walked away, leaving Emmy alone on the bench, her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. The world seemed to spin around her, and for a moment, she felt like she couldn't breathe. How could he do this to her? How could someone she had trusted with everything turn away so easily? The pain was unbearable. She couldn't understand how Tulu, the one person who had always been there for her, could do this. She had given him everything. Her love, her trust, her heart. And now, it all felt like it had been thrown away. As the night fell, Emmy sat there in the park, lost in her thoughts. The stars above seemed so distant, and the world felt so cold. She didn't know how long she had been sitting there, but when she finally got up to leave, she felt like a part of her was missing. The pain of betrayal cut deep, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something had been taken from her that she would never get back. But little did she know, this was just the beginning. Days passed, and Emmy tried to move on with her life. She threw herself into work, surrounded herself with friends, and tried to forget about Tulu. But no matter what she did, she couldn't escape the pain. One evening, she received a message from an unknown number. Curious, she opened it. "Emmy, I know what Tulu did to you. You deserve better. I can help you get back at him." The message was from a stranger, but there was something about it that made her heart race. Was this some kind of joke? Or was there a deeper plan behind the message? Emmy's heart pounded as she read the message again. Who was this person? And what did they mean by getting back at Tulu? Before she could think more about it, the doorbell rang. Emmy quickly closed her phone and rushed to the door. When she opened it, she found a small box on the doorstep. No note, no name. She bent down and picked it up, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. What could it be? As she opened the box, her breath caught in her throat. Inside was a beautiful necklace with a note attached. The note read, "Take this. It's a sign of what's to come. The choice is yours. Will you let him go, or will you fight back?" Emmy was stunned. Who would send her something like this? And what did it mean? She glanced at the necklace again, her fingers trembling as she held it. There was no return address, no explanation. Just the cryptic message. Her mind raced with possibilities. What did she have to lose? Could this be the opportunity for revenge she had been waiting for? But there was still so much she didn't understand. Who was behind this? And what was their real motive? Emmy took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She couldn't let her emotions cloud her judgment. She needed to know more before she made any decisions. And with that, she decided to take the next step. She would find out who was behind this message and why they wanted to help her. But little did she know, her quest for answers would lead her down a dangerous path, one that would change her life forever. As she stood there, staring at the necklace in her hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to take a dark turn, and she had no idea just how deep the betrayal would go. What would she do next? Would she take the path of revenge, or would she find a way to heal her broken heart? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. Emmy spent the entire night turning the necklace over in her hands, unable to stop thinking about the mysterious message. Her heart was filled with confusion and curiosity. Who would send her something like this? And why? She had never been one to seek revenge. But something about this situation felt different. Tulu's betrayal had broken her, and she felt like she deserved justice for the pain he had caused her. The next morning, Emmy woke up feeling strangely determined. She put the necklace around her neck, letting the cold metal sit against her skin as she pondered her next move. As much as she wanted to move on from Tulu, there was something inside her that refused to let go of the anger and hurt. She couldn't just forgive him and walk away. He had betrayed her in the worst possible way, and she needed to understand why. Emmy decided to meet with her closest friend, Rejoice. Rejoice was always the one who knew how to calm Emmy's nerves and give her the best advice. They had been friends for years, and there was no one else Emmy trusted more. As she walked to Rejoice's apartment, Emmy thought about the necklace again. What was the purpose of it? And who could be behind this mysterious gift? She had no answers, but she couldn't ignore the strange feeling that something big was about to unfold in her life. When Emmy arrived at Rejoice's apartment, she didn't even knock. She walked right in, knowing Rejoice would be in the kitchen, making her usual morning tea. The scent of freshly brewed tea filled the air as Rejoice looked up and smiled. "Good morning, girl," Rejoice greeted her, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "What's got you so quiet this morning? You look like you've been up all night." Emmy didn't say anything at first. She simply held out the necklace for Rejoice to see. Rejoice's eyes widened when she saw the delicate piece of jewelry, and her face filled with concern. "Where did you get this?" Rejoice asked, her voice soft but urgent. "I don't know," Emmy replied, her voice shaky. "I received a message last night from an unknown number. They told me to take this as a sign of what's to come, and that I had a choice to make." Rejoice took the necklace from Emmy's hand, studying it closely. "This is strange, Emmy. Are you sure you want to get involved in whatever this is? You've been through so much already with Tulu, and now someone is sending you messages like this." Emmy bit her lip. "I know it's risky, but I need to understand why Tulu did this to me, why he pushed me away. I can't just move on without knowing the truth." Rejoice sighed and sat down on the couch. "I get it. I really do. But you need to be careful. People don't just send gifts like this without expecting something in return. You need to figure out who's behind this and why they want to help you." Emmy nodded, the weight of her friend's words sinking in. She had always trusted Rejoice's judgment, but this felt too important to ignore. She needed to find out who was behind the necklace and what their real intentions were. After a long pause, Rejoice spoke again. "Okay, so what's your plan? How do you want to approach this?" Emmy took a deep breath. "I'm going to find out who sent me this. I'm not going to let Tulu off the hook so easily. He needs to understand the consequences of what he did to me. If I'm going to move on, I need to know why he hurt me." Rejoice looked at her with concern, but she didn't argue. "I'll support you, but just promise me you'll be careful. This could lead you down a dangerous path." Emmy nodded, a mixture of determination and fear rising in her chest. She knew this wasn't going to be easy, but she had made up her mind. She couldn't live with the question of why Tulu had betrayed her. It was time to take control of her own story. As the day passed, Emmy's mind raced with thoughts of how she would begin her search for answers. Who could have sent the necklace? And why did they want to help her? She couldn't stop thinking about the cryptic message. Will you let him go? Or will you fight back? It wasn't long before her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message from a stranger. It was a call from Tulu. Emmy froze as she stared at his name on the screen. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she felt a wave of anger surge through her. How dare he call her after everything he had done? After he had pushed her away without any explanation? For a moment, she considered not answering, but something inside her told her she needed to hear what he had to say. She didn't want to be weak, but she also didn't want to be in the dark forever. With a shaky breath, she pressed the green button and answered the call. Emmy. Tolu's voice came through the phone, sounding tentative and unsure. I know I hurt you and I just wanted to check in. I'm sorry for everything. Emmy's eyes narrowed as she listened. She didn't know what he expected from her. Did he think a simple apology would make everything okay? I don't need your apologies, Tulu, she replied, her voice cold. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. There was silence on the other end of the line before Tolu spoke again. Emmy, I didn't want to hurt you. I just thought it was for the best. Stop, Emmy interrupted, her voice growing more forceful. I don't want to hear it. You made your decision, and I'm done. She ended the call without waiting for a response, her chest tightening with anger. It was over. She had finally found the strength to cut ties with him. But as the phone clicked off, Emmy realized that her journey was far from over. Tulu had no idea what was coming. Later that evening, as Emmy was getting ready for bed, she heard a knock at her door. Startled, she walked over and opened it slowly, only to find a package waiting for her on the doorstep. There was no note, no name, just a plain brown box. With trembling hands, Emmy brought the package inside and opened it. Inside was another item, a small, black book with gold lettering on the cover. She picked it up, unsure of what to make of it. As she opened the book, the first page read, "The next step is yours. Choose wisely." Her heart raced as she closed the book and stared at it in disbelief. What was happening? Was this the next phase of the mystery? And what did it mean? The suspense was unbearable. Emmy could feel herself teetering on the edge of something she couldn't fully understand. But she knew one thing for sure. Tulu wasn't the only one with secrets. Emmy couldn't sleep that night. The black book sat on her nightstand, its gold lettering gleaming faintly in the dim light. She kept wondering who was behind all of this. Who would go to such lengths to involve her in something so mysterious? And what did the book mean by choose wisely? She turned over and over in her mind the message she had received earlier. The cryptic words, "The next step is yours." What did that mean? Was this a test? A warning? Or something far more sinister? As the hours passed, her thoughts grew more frantic. She had always believed in kindness, in giving people second chances, but this situation felt different. This wasn't just about forgiveness or moving on. This was about something deeper, something that could change everything. Emmy had no choice but to act. The unknown sender had given her a choice, but what was the choice exactly? What was she supposed to do next? The next morning, Emmy sat at her kitchen table, the book open in front of her. She ran her fingers across the pages, but there was nothing to indicate what she was supposed to do. It seemed like a normal book, until she reached the second page. There, written in neat handwriting, was another message. Find out where Tulu is tonight. The clock is ticking. Her stomach churned. Was this a joke? Who could have known where Tulu was going to be? And why did it matter? Without wasting any more time, Emmy grabbed her phone and dialed Rejoice's number. Her friend picked up after the first ring. Emmy, what's going on? You sound different. Rejoice's voice was filled with concern. Rejoice, I need your help, Emmy said, her voice shaky. I don't know who's doing this, but they're asking me to find out where Tulu is tonight. They gave me a book, and I don't know what to make of it. Rejoice was silent for a moment. Okay, let's calm down. Who gave you this book? What exactly does it say? Emmy explained everything. How she had received the necklace, the strange message, and now this book with its cryptic instructions. Rejoice listened carefully, then spoke again. This is really strange, Emmy, but I know you. You don't back down from challenges, no matter how crazy they seem. Let's find out what's going on. Emmy let out a deep breath. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I can't just ignore it. I need to know the truth. It's the only way I can move forward. Okay then, let's start by looking for clues. I'll help you with whatever you need. With Rejoice's encouragement, Emmy got dressed and decided to head out to the one place she knew Tulu would be tonight. The old cafe where they used to hang out together. He had always gone there to relax, to think, or just to clear his head. Emmy had spent countless afternoons there, sitting in the corner booth with him, talking about everything and nothing. As she made her way to the cafe, her mind raced. Why would Tulu be there tonight? And what was she supposed to do once she found him? Was she meant to confront him? Or was this a test of some sort? When she arrived, she didn't see Tulu right away. The cafe was quiet, and the lights were dim, just like she remembered. Emmy sat down at a corner booth and waited, trying to calm her nerves. Minutes passed, and still no sign of him. She was about to give up and leave when she saw someone enter the cafe, a figure she recognized instantly. It was Tulu. He looked different. He wasn't wearing the usual casual clothes she had come to expect. Instead, he was dressed in a sharp, dark suit. His expression tense, as if something was weighing heavily on his mind. He scanned the room, and for a moment their eyes met. Emmy's heart skipped a beat, but she didn't approach him. Not yet. Tulu walked to the counter and ordered a coffee, his eyes never meeting hers again. He seemed lost in thought, unaware that she was watching him from the corner. Emmy felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, confusion. He had hurt her, but here he was, just going about his life like nothing had changed. As she sat there, watching him, something caught her attention. A man across the room was staring at Tulu intently. He had a cold, calculating look on his face, and it made Emmy's skin crawl. The man seemed familiar, but she couldn't place him. He was dressed in a black coat and dark sunglasses. Even though it wasn't that bright inside, there was something unsettling about his presence, like he didn't belong. Emmy leaned forward slightly, trying to get a better look. The man was still staring at Tulu, and Tulu, oblivious to the attention, was sipping his coffee. Emmy's instincts told her that something wasn't right. She needed to find out more about this man and his connection to Tulu. But how? And why was he watching Tulu so closely? Just as Emmy was about to stand up and move closer, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a new message from the unknown number. It's time. Make your move. If you want to know the truth, do it now. Her pulse quickened. Was this a warning? Or an invitation? She glanced at Tulu once more, then at the man across the room. She had to make a decision, but the clock was ticking. Should she approach Tulu now and ask him the questions burning in her heart? Or should she confront the mysterious man and find out what he knew? With a deep breath, Emmy stood up and walked toward the counter. But as she passed the man, he suddenly stood up and blocked her path. His face was expressionless, but his eyes were full of menace. "Do you know who I am?" he asked in a low, cold voice. Emmy's heart raced. "No, but I know you're watching Tulu." The man's lips curled into a slight smile. "You're not as naive as I thought, but I'm afraid you've crossed a line. Now it's too late." Before Emmy could react, he turned and walked out of the cafe, disappearing into the night. Emmy stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. She glanced at Tulu, who was still sitting at the counter, unaware of what had just happened. She was running out of time. The mystery was deepening, and the clock was ticking. Emmy stood frozen in place, her heart racing as the man disappeared into the night. The cold air of the cafe felt heavier now, pressing down on her as her thoughts whirled in confusion. Who was that man? What did he mean when he said it was too late? Her mind kept replaying his words over and over again, trying to make sense of the situation. She glanced at Tulu, who was still sitting at the counter, unaware of the exchange that had just taken place. Something in his demeanor seemed different now, almost distant, as if a wall had gone up between them. His eyes were fixed on his coffee, and he looked like he was lost in thought, just like the old Tulu she used to know. Emmy's stomach churned with uncertainty. She had come here to confront him, to demand answers for the way he had treated her. But now it felt like the mystery was much bigger than she had anticipated. There were forces at play here that she couldn't fully understand. The man who had blocked her path in the cafe had made her feel like she was stepping into a world she wasn't prepared for. A world of secrets, deception, and danger. But Emmy wasn't one to back down. Not anymore. The pain of Tulu's betrayal still burned deep inside her, and she couldn't let go of the need to know why he had pushed her away. She had to uncover the truth, no matter what it took. Taking a deep breath, Emmy walked toward Tulu, her steps steady and deliberate. As she approached him, he finally looked up from his coffee, his eyes locking with hers. For a moment, there was silence between them, heavy, filled with unspoken words. Then, Tulu gave her a small, nervous smile, but there was something in his eyes that told her he wasn't completely at ease. "Emmy," he said softly, his voice distant, "I didn't expect to see you here." Emmy didn't sit down. She stood before him, her gaze unwavering. "We need to talk, Tulu," she said, her voice firm. Tulu's expression faltered for a moment, and he glanced around the cafe, as if looking for an escape. But there was no way out now. Emmy had made up her mind. She was going to get the answers she needed, even if it meant confronting the painful truth. "Look, I know you're probably angry with me, and I deserve that," Tulu said, his voice low. "But please, let's not do this here. Can we go somewhere private?" Emmy shook her head. "No. I want the truth, and I want it now." Tolu sighed and looked down at his coffee, his fingers curling around the cup. "I never meant to hurt you, Emmy. I swear I didn't. It's just that there's so much you don't know." Emmy felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "What don't I know, Tolu? What could be more important than us?" Tolu hesitated for a moment, and for the first time, Emmy saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. "I can't explain everything, but you have to understand. There are people who are watching me. People who don't want me involved with you." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Emmy felt a chill run down her spine. "What are you talking about? Who are these people? And why do they care about me?" Tolu's face hardened, and he lowered his voice, glancing around the cafe as if making sure no one could hear. "I don't have much time, Emmy, but there's a lot more going on than you think. You've been dragged into something much bigger than either of us. And the worst part is, I can't protect you from it." Emmy's mind raced. She had thought Tulu was just a man who had made a selfish decision, but now it seemed like there was a whole network of people involved. She had always believed in Tulu, trusted him with her heart, but now she wasn't sure who he really was. "What do you mean you can't protect me?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. "If you really cared about me, you would have told me everything from the start. You wouldn't have pushed me away without an explanation." Tolu's face softened with regret, but his eyes were filled with sorrow. "I never wanted to hurt you, Emmy. I really didn't. But the situation I'm in, it's complicated, dangerous." Before Emmy could respond, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She quickly pulled it out, her heart skipping a beat when she saw the message. "Don't trust him. He's not the man you think he is." It was from the same unknown number that had sent her the necklace and the book. Emmy's pulse quickened. She looked at Tulu, her mind racing. Was this another part of the puzzle? Could she trust him after all? Tulu looked at her, his expression growing tense. "Who is that? Who's messaging you?" Emmy's hands shook as she stared at the screen. I don't know." Tulu stood up abruptly, his face pale. "Emmy, I need to tell you something. There's a lot at stake here. You need to stay away from me. It's not safe for you." Emmy felt her heart sink. "What are you saying, Tulu? Are you telling me to leave?" He nodded, his voice strained. I'm not the man you think I am. I've made mistakes, but now there are people involved who won't stop until everything is ruined. For both of us. Emmy felt a surge of anger. How dare he push her away again? How dare he tell her to walk away when she had given him everything? But before she could respond, Tulu turned and hurried toward the door. He didn't even look back. Emmy stood there, frozen, watching him leave. Her heart pounded in her chest as the weight of his words sank in. She had trusted him, believed in him, and now he was running away. What was going on? Who were these people Tulu was so afraid of? And why had he lied to her for so long? As the door to the cafe closed behind him, Emmy felt a chill run through her. It was like the world had shifted beneath her feet, and she was standing on shaky ground. There was so much more to uncover, but with every answer, more questions seemed to emerge. Just then, her phone buzzed again. She opened the message, her hands trembling. It's not too late, Emmy. The truth is closer than you think. Don't trust Tulu. He's hiding something, and it's bigger than both of you. Emmy's breath caught in her throat. Was this a warning? Or was it the truth she had been searching for? The mystery was deepening, and Emmy knew she couldn't back out now. She had to keep going. For her own peace, for the truth, and for the future she still hoped to have. The days that followed Tulu's sudden departure were filled with confusion and questions. Emmy couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Tulu's words echoed in her mind, but they only seemed to add to the mystery rather than provide any clarity. He was hiding something, she was certain of it. But what could it be? Why would he push her away if there was a deeper danger involved? She tried to go on with her life, but every time she saw a message from the unknown number, every time she thought about Tulu, her mind would spiral back into uncertainty. The messages were cryptic but pointed toward one undeniable fact. Tulu wasn't the man she thought he was. And now the stakes seemed higher than ever. The messages kept coming, each one more pressing than the last. They were like pieces of a puzzle, and Emmy knew she had to put them together to make sense of the chaos surrounding her. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Emmy came home and found another message waiting for her. It read, "He's meeting with someone tonight. Follow him. You'll finally understand the truth." Emmy's heart raced. She knew she had to act. This was her chance to uncover whatever secrets Tulu was keeping from her. She couldn't wait any longer. But as she grabbed her coat and prepared to leave, a wave of doubt washed over her. What if she was making a mistake? What if she was getting in over her head? She shook the thoughts away. She couldn't back down now. She needed to know everything, even if it meant facing the darkness Tulu had been trying to shield her from. Emmy took a deep breath, walked out the door, and headed toward the location she had last seen Tulu, the same cafe where they had spoken days ago. She wasn't sure where else he would go, but she hoped that tonight she would get the answers she needed. As she neared the cafe, Emmy saw Tulu's familiar figure standing outside, talking to someone. She couldn't make out the other person's face, but they were standing too close, speaking in hushed tones. Tulu looked different, more guarded, more secretive. His eyes kept darting around, as if checking for anyone who might be watching. Emmy crouched behind a nearby car, her heart pounding as she watched them. She wasn't sure why, but she had the unsettling feeling that she wasn't just watching a casual conversation. There was something about the way they spoke that felt off. She needed to get closer, to hear their words, but she couldn't risk being seen. For what felt like an eternity, Emmy stayed hidden in the shadows, her mind racing with questions. Who was Tulu meeting with? What were they talking about? She had to find out. Finally, the conversation ended. Tulu turned away from the stranger and started walking in the opposite direction. The man he had been talking to lingered for a moment longer, watching Tulu leave. It was then that Emmy saw his face, a face she recognized all too well. It was the same man who had blocked her path in the cafe a few days ago. Her breath caught in her throat. What was going on? Why was he involved with Tulu? And why had he warned her not to trust him? Emmy's legs felt like they were made of lead as she stood up and began following Tulu from a distance. She couldn't get caught now, not when she was this close. Every step she took felt heavier than the last, but she couldn't stop herself. She had to know what was going on. Tulu led her to a secluded part of the city, an area she wasn't familiar with. The streets were darker here, and there were fewer people around. Emmy's pulse quickened. She had never been this far out before, and the silence was unsettling. As she rounded a corner, she saw Tulu stop in front of an old, run-down building. He looked around one more time before entering. Emmy hesitated for a moment before following him, her breath coming in shallow bursts. The air felt cold, almost suffocating, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. She couldn't explain it, but everything about this place felt wrong. She carefully pushed the door open and slipped inside, her footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. She tried to be as quiet as possible, her eyes scanning the dark space. There was a dim light coming from the back of the building, and Emmy crept toward it, hoping to get a glimpse of what was going on. As she drew closer, she could hear voices, Tulu's voice, but not just his. There was someone else there, someone she couldn't quite place. She pressed herself against the wall, straining to hear their conversation. "You need to end this, Tulu," a voice said. Emmy didn't recognize it, but it was low and threatening. "She's too close now. You have to cut ties with her for good. If she finds out, we're all in danger." Tulu's voice trembled with fear. "I know, but I can't just walk away from her. She doesn't deserve this. She's been through enough." The other voice sneered. "You don't have a choice anymore. It's either her or us. And if she keeps digging, she'll expose everything. Do you understand?" Emmy's heart raced as the words hit her like a blow to the chest. What did they mean? What was Tulu involved in? And why was she in so much danger? Tulu's voice dropped to a whisper. "I'll do it, but I need more time." There was a pause before the other voice spoke again. "You don't have time. Do it now, or we'll make sure she's the one who suffers." Emmy felt a surge of panic. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't process what she had just heard. Was Tulu involved in something illegal? Something dangerous? The people he was talking to were threatening her life, and she didn't even know why. She couldn't stay hidden any longer. With her heart pounding in her chest, she turned to leave. But as she stepped back, her foot hit something on the floor, and it made a loud noise. Tolu's head snapped toward the sound, his eyes widening as he saw her standing in the doorway. "Emmy!" he shouted, panic in his voice. "What are you doing here?" Before she could respond, the stranger who had been speaking to Tolu stepped forward, blocking the doorway. His face was cold, unreadable. "You shouldn't have come, Emmy," he said in a low voice. "Now you've seen too much." Tolu stepped between them, his hands raised in a pleading gesture. "Emmy, you have to leave. Please just go. You don't understand what's happening. Please, just go." Emmy felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She couldn't believe what was happening. She had always trusted Tulu, but now he was standing in her way, trying to keep her from the truth. Her mind was racing, but the only thing she knew for sure was that she couldn't trust anyone anymore. The danger was real, and she didn't know who to turn to.